welcome to Songbird Garden Design. I'm Mary Beth. I'm here at the Santa Clarita Green Thumb Nursery with Certified Arborist, horticultural consultant, and educator for over 30 years, John Windsor. Thanks, John. Thanks for coming today.
Oh, my pleasure. This should be fun.
Okay, great. Today I'd like John to talk to us about what he feels is some of the best fruit trees or shrubs that would do well in the Santa Clarita Valley. So John, as the expert, I'm going to let you take it over and tell us where to begin.
Okay, I think we'll begin right here because we're right in the middle of the citrus bed. The citrus family is a fairly large family. We probably have 25 different varieties of citrus just right here alone. They come in dwarf, semi-dwarf, and what's called standard. Standard is typically with a trunk and a rounded head. Semi-dwarf is usually branched lower, and then dwarf, genetic dwarfs, can be grown even in containers for many years. So the different varieties will simply depend upon what you use the most. There are many different types of lemons, all of which will grow here. There's several types of oranges, seedless or with seeds. A couple of new varieties like the Caracara, which is actually a pink flesh orange. I think everybody likes that one. And for the lemons, there's a beautiful new lemon called the pink lemonade tree. It's got a variegated skin, a variegated leaf, and pink flesh. So awfully attractive tree year-round. And of course the fruit is very bitter like a lemon.
That's one of my questions as far as pruning is concerned.
Yes, you don't prune a citrus like you would prune a stone fruit, like peach, plum, or nectarine. Those have to be pruned pretty well every year. A citrus, I leave them alone unless there's an obvious reason to do some pruning, because the trunks of citrus can burn. The bark is very thin, and it's typically good to keep the citrus nice and rounded and full so that sunlight doesn't hit the trunk or the main branches. And these trees typically bloom February or March. That's why we don't see any blooms on any of the plants behind us now. On different varieties, you can start harvesting fruit from late summer for the wash to navel, Christmas time and beyond. So the citrus bloom, and when they bloom, they smell wonderful. Everybody loves the smell of citrus. And then the fruiting begins later on, summer clear into winter. There are some varieties of oranges you can be picking in January and February during the colder months.
Wonderful. Now, I'm concerned a lot, I know with my citrus fruits lately, I've noticed there's been a curling to the leaves, and I get a lot of questions about that. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on there?
Yes, and I'm sure if I look closely, I could probably find some of that activity on these trees here. There is an insect, he's been around for a while now, a good 10 years anyway, called a citrus leaf miner. And it's a very tiny, almost microscopic insect that can enter the new growth when the leaf is just developing, maybe 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch long. The little insect can actually burrow inside the leaf. He then lives in there, and he eats the chlorophyll inside there, and you will eventually get these what look like little lines, white lines, growing through your leaves. There are sprays that are effective in controlling it. Some people simply ignore them because it is cosmetic. They don't affect the fruit at all.
That's a good point.
Yeah, not at all. I have heard of people pulling off the leaves. I do not recommend that. Every leaf on a tree is important for photosynthesis, so pulling a leaf off actually hurts a tree. Another reason why we don't prune too terribly much. Other than that, the other things that they'll get are pretty standard. Aphids and mealybugs and other types of insects that can either be washed off with a blast of water, or we have a number of very safe, natural insecticides to control them. We certainly don't recommend the use of any kind of pesticide on.
Right, now remember you're eating that fruit, so you don't want to put any chemicals in the ground that the tree is going to intake, because guess what, that goes in your body too. So
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
Great.
So the only other thing that I think you have to be you have to know about is citrus trees can be damaged by cold weather. We get some pretty good cold snaps here. We had them in 2005 and 2010, and it will actually damage the new growth on the trees. And in severe conditions, a newly planted tree, it might damage the entire top of the tree. The frost damage is temporary. The tree grows out of it. Some people will cover their trees on the coldest nights. A nice thing to do is to wrap your trees with Christmas lights on the coldest nights.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It keeps them warm, and and you can hook it up to a timer so that they come on at maybe 5 in the afternoon and they turn off at 10 in the morning. Our frost comes straight down. It doesn't stick around during the day, so protecting your trees at night would prevent any of that frost damage.
Wonderful, fantastic. Well, I mean, we could talk about citrus trees for hours and hours. So for right now, that's what we have for you. And I'd like to move on to one of my favorites, pomegranate.
Excellent.
All right, we're going to move on now to that.
We have several pomegranates, and we can take a look at them now.
Great, thanks. Let's go. All right, again, one of my favorites, the pomegranate.
Yes, and this is probably the easiest plant to grow for just about anybody. All you need is a hot, sunny, dry spot in your yard. You can grow pomegranates easily without any care. This selection that I've shown you right here has been trained up into what we call a standard. But the typical pomegranate is an arching type plant, usually to 6 or 7 feet high, and then spreads out. It will produce an abundance of these beautiful orange flowers, followed by a very delicious and nutritious red fruit.
Wonderful, wonderful. And did we say approximately how large this gets?
And that's up to you.
Oh, okay.
This particular tree type would actually end up being smaller than the standard bush, because the standard bush sends up multiple shoots from the ground which then arch out. So this would actually be easier to shape if you were the sort that wanted to shape your trees. The shrubs can pretty much be left to their own devices. Very little pruning, very little watering, very little feeding. So like I say, probably one of the easier fruit-producing plants to grow.
And now our pomegranates are deciduous trees.
They are.
They are.
They are.
Okay.
They drop their leaves, unlike the citrus that we talked about. They will drop their leaves in the winter for a short period of time, but that shouldn't be a care.
And approximately what month can we expect the fruit?
Late in the season. October is a good month to harvest the fruit.
Wonderful, great, great. And I see right next door is another one of my favorites, the Pineappleguava.
Exactly, another very easy plant to grow. A plant that is both nutritious and delicious. Now, one of the wonderful things about this particular plant, the Pineappleguava, aside from producing a very delicious fruit, is the flower. I'm going to take my mask down now, and I'm going to demonstrate. This is the petal from the Pineappleguava flower.
Oh, let me try one of those.
Yes, indeed. They are delicious.
All right.
The first time I had one of these, somebody put it on a fruit salad. And ever since then, I've been hooked.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that delicious?
Sweet like candy.
Uh-huh. This is the petal
Oh, my goodness.
from the beautiful flower that the plant produces. I'll give you another.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm going to eat the rest.
Okay.
Since I discovered the flavor of this flower, I now eat more flowers than I do the fruit of this particular plant. So, definitely on my top 5 favorite fruit-producing trees, the Pineappleguava.
Great, thank you. Now we're going to take another look at a favorite, the fig tree.
Okay, and right here behind me, we have probably a half a dozen different varieties of figs. Figs are one of the easiest trees to grow. Anybody can grow fig trees. All you need is room and sunlight. And the fig tree will produce figs for you even at a very young age. You can see this is a very young tree and already has some fruit developing on it. If you can see over here, here's some fruit a little further along. So the different types of fruit trees will produce different types of figs. We've got a yellow fig, we've got the black fig, and one of my favorites, the brown turkey. Now, some years the brown turkey fig will produce twice. It will produce an early crop in the summer and a later one in the fall. So if you really like figs, brown turkey might be the one for you.
Now you said you need you need room. What are we looking at? How much space?
Well, there is one variety of dwarf that I've done fairly well with in a container, a large container, for a number of years. Otherwise, give these trees room. Even with pruning, the fig trees need space. As you can see, they've got a very large, very attractive leaf, very neat leaf, but they need room. They need room to develop. All right, folks, now we're going to talk about a very large family of fruit trees that are called the stone fruits. They're called stone fruits because of the large pit that these plants have. There's plum, peach, nectarine, and apricot, all in the stone fruit family. They all do pretty well here. Peaches and nectarines, you want to make sure that you buy what's called a low chill variety. Most plums are already low chill, but on peach and nectarine, make sure that you choose something that's low chill. Our winters here are getting warmer every single year. Low chill means that these trees will produce fruit without very cold winters. We used to be able to produce apricots out here. We don't always get a cold enough winter for apricots. We definitely don't get cold enough for some varieties of pears, some varieties of apples, or any variety of cherry. So if you're going to buy an Asian pear or an apple tree, make sure you ask for one that is low chill, and then they will produce in your area. As I mentioned, stone fruits are pretty easy to grow. They don't need pollination from another type of tree unless you want to grow a plum other than the Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa seems to be the perfect pollinizer for all varieties of plums. So this particular tree that I see in front of me would need a pollinizer, and a Santa Rosa plum would pollinize it. Peaches, nectarines, apricots, you don't have to worry about pollination. Most of your apples and Asian pears do well without cross-pollination. And cherries are absolutely out of the question for down here. We're just not cold enough.
Well, thank you very much, John, for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out and showing us the various fruit trees that will do well in the Santa Clarita Valley. I respect your expertise, and once again, I appreciate you taking the time out for us today.
Well, thank you very much, Mary Beth. I really do think that anybody that wants to spend the time, energy, and water to grow plants in the yard ought to consider growing fruit trees. Get a little extra for your effort. My whole front yard is nothing but fruit trees.
Just check with your HOA first.
Oh, yeah. Very good. All right. And on that note, we will leave you.
Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Okay. I got it. Okay. Sorry about the interruption.
Thank you. No, I'm going to go in and film close-ups now.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you.